If you've ever stood in front of your closet for 20 minutes unable to pick out an outfit or felt completely paralyzed by a simple yes or no question, this video is for you. You're not broken or indecisive, you're experiencing decision fatigue, and it hits neurodivergent brains especially hard. I'm Shannon Schroeder, F-Bomb coach, and I help neurodivergent, especially ADHD women, build sustainable systems for their businesses and their lives. And today we're going to talk about decision fatigue. How many of these have you experienced, of these situations this week alone? Here's what's wild. You can make massive business decisions, navigate complex problems, and handle genuinely difficult choices, but then you can't pick which notebook to use or what to have for lunch. That's decision fatigue in action. And if you're like me, you've probably beaten yourself up for why you can't do this. Why am I like this? Why can't I just decide? Decision fatigue is the mental exhaustion that happens after making too many decisions. Think of your decision-making capacity like a phone battery. For every choice that you make, it drains you a little bit. For ADHD brains, you're often starting the day at like 60% battery and you drain faster. By afternoon, you're in power save mode and even small decisions feel impossible. This is your brain protecting its remaining resources. Here's why this is exponentially harder for you. First, your executive function is already working overtime just to get through basic daily tasks. Every decision, even the little ones, requires you to engage in planning, organization, task initiation, skills that don't come easily for you already. So it's an extra tax on your brain. Second, working memory challenges mean you literally can't hold as many options in your head. So you have to keep reviewing all of your choices, which is exhausting. And third, and this one is really big, we've talked about emotional regulation before. If you experience rejection sensitivity, the fear of making the wrong choice and every decision makes it harder. Like, your emotions are so wired that you're like, oh my gosh, if I make the wrong one, it's really going to be bad. So then it makes it harder to make any choice. So when it comes to all of these things, something that should be simple, like what sandwich do I want, can feel every bit as stressful as choosing a whole business strategy. Let's talk about what most people don't even realize. You're not just making those big decisions about like how to run your business. You're making thousands of micro decisions every single day. What time to wake up? Which task do you do first? Whether you answer that text now or later. What words should you use in an email? Each one seems tiny, but they all add up. And for those of us who are running businesses, we're making even more decisions than the average person. Should I post this? Is this the right price? How should I structure this offer? What color should this button be? By noon, you've already made hundreds of decisions, and then people wonder why you can't figure out what you want to have for lunch. Decision fatigue doesn't just feel like I can't decide. It shows up in some sneaky ways. You might find yourself completely frozen, unable to take action because you're stuck analyzing every option. Or the opposite, you make impulsive choices just to get it done, like buying something you don't need or saying yes to commitments that later on you're going to regret. You might avoid opening emails or messages because responding requires decisions. Or you become irritable and snappy because your brain is just done. If these things sound familiar, it's your brain screaming at you, I need a break from choosing. Now let's add some perfectionism into the mix, because if you're neurodivergent and running a business, you probably got some perfectionist tendencies. Here's what happens here. You want to make the perfect choice. So you research extensively, you read 47 reviews, you watch comparison videos, you start making spreadsheets. But all that information makes it harder to decide because now you're aware of every possible downside that could happen with the wrong choice. So you get stuck. And eventually you either make a snap decision just to escape the mental torture, or you avoid deciding altogether, and then you beat yourself up for being indecisive, which makes the next decision even more emotionally loaded. It's another one of those vicious cycles that we talk about. So let's get real about what this is actually costing you. Decision fatigue isn't just annoying, it's stealing your energy, your time, and your opportunities. When you spend 3 hours deciding which email platform to use, that's 3 hours you could have actually been using the platform. When you're too mentally exhausted to decide which project to pursue, you pursue none of them. When you're irritable from decision overload, you snap at people you care about. And here's the kicker. The decisions that matter most for your business growth, those are the ones we're most likely to avoid when we're in decision fatigue mode. So we end up making 100 tiny decisions and avoiding the really big one that could actually move the needle for our business. Let's talk a little bit about how frustrating it is when people tell you, just decide. If I could just decide, I would have done it an hour ago. The problem is that traditional decision-making advice assumes that your decision-making capacity is available and functioning. But when you're in decision fatigue, that capacity is offline. Telling someone in decision fatigue to trust their gut is like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk it off. Your gut is currently overwhelmed and unreliable. Making a pros and cons list just gives you more things to decide about or decide between. You can't say, don't overthink it, it's too late. As soon as the idea is in my head, I'm already 15 tabs deep in research. We need different strategies. The good news, you're not fundamentally broken or incapable of making decisions. You're experiencing a very real phenomenon that has been studied extensively. Decision-making uses actual mental resources, and those resources can be depleted and replenished. Once you understand what's happening, you can start implementing strategies that will work. You can reduce the sheer number of decisions that you face every day. You can make better decisions with less mental energy. You can replenish your decision-making capacity. Over the course of the videos that I'm making this month, we're going to dive deep into a bunch of different strategies for you. But for today, we're just trying to understand that this is real, it's not your fault, and there are solutions. So, before we wrap up, I want you to take a moment and just notice. When does decision fatigue hit you hardest? Is it first thing in the morning when you're facing your to-do list? Is it midday when you've already made 100 choices? Is it late afternoon when someone asks, what's for dinner? What types of decisions drain you most? Business decisions, personal decisions, creative decisions? And be honest. How do you talk to yourself when you're struggling to decide? Are you kind and understanding, or are you beating yourself up? Just notice. No judgment. Awareness is the first step. You have to know what's going on before you can make choices to change it. Thanks for being here. If this video resonated with you, hit subscribe because we're diving into solutions this month.